Have you ever asked yourself how Jesus Christ might have looked? Governor Pontius Pilate, in his enigmatic letter, referred not only to miracles and grand occurrences, but also vividly described Jesus' physical traits, including his skin tone and kind eyes. It's a rare opportunity to get a genuine picture of his appearance from the ancient past. Are you curious to uncover these astonishing details? Make sure to follow the channel so you won't miss any exciting revelations about these intriguing historical enigmas. Pilate's description of Jesus in his letter to Emperor Tiberius provides a fresh perspective, raising doubts about whether the image we hold of him is entirely correct. Pilate's letter to Tiberius includes not only physical descriptions of Jesus, but also mentions miracles, the trial, and even the resurrection, details seemingly absent from the Gospels. So, what was written in this mysterious letter? Why would Pilate, a Roman official, report such remarkable events about a man he respected as a symbol of spirituality and devotion? Pilate starts his letter with a respectful greeting to the emperor. "Hail, Emperor! The extraordinary events occurring in my province recently compel me to provide a detailed account. It feels as though the gods have forsaken us. Since taking office in Judea, my life has been consumed with worry and distress." Pilate recounted that from the moment he arrived in Jerusalem, he faced opposition from Jewish religious figures and the high priests. He noted that Jerusalem was the most unmanageable of all Roman territories, with its people constantly on the brink of revolt, straining his already insufficient military resources. Amid this turbulent backdrop, Pilate became intrigued by an exceptional individual, a young man from Galilee known as Jesus of Nazareth. Initially, Pilate suspected Jesus of being a potential revolutionary. But after observing him, Pilate realized Jesus neither sought rebellion nor incited unrest, choosing instead to spread a compassionate message. On one occasion, Pilate observed Jesus addressing a crowd and instructed his scribe to blend in and document Jesus' teachings. As reported by his scribe, Laius, Jesus responded to the crowd's inquiries with unparalleled insight. When questioned about paying taxes, Jesus declared, "Give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's." The Bible, Matthew 22:21. Pilate further narrated that, despite opposition from Jewish authorities, he decided to show clemency and refrained from detaining Jesus. Pilate recognized that Jesus denounced the hypocrisy of the Jewish elite rather than inciting rebellion. At one point, Jesus rebuked them, saying, "You are like tombs painted white, appearing lovely on the outside, but filled with decay and bones within." The Bible, Matthew 23:27. His blunt criticisms enraged the high priests, who often petitioned Pilate, labeling Jesus as insolent. When Pilate met Jesus, he couldn't resist feeling deeply impressed by his composure. He shared that, as he stood on the balcony, it was as if he was rooted to the ground when Jesus calmly approached. "I stood there shaking like a guilty man while he moved forward gracefully, as though to say, 'Here I am,' without needing words," Pilate recounted. The portrayal of Jesus, who could leave a profound impression on an experienced Roman governor, was an extraordinary image rarely paralleled in that time. Pilate was filled with both reverence and unease when facing Jesus, a man he had permitted to preach freely for 3 years. "Jesus," he said, with a trembling voice, "I have allowed you freedom of expression all these years, and I have no regrets. Your words are astonishingly simple, yet immensely profound, a kind of simplicity that surpasses even the greatest of our philosophers." Pilate expressed concern about the dangers stemming from the powerful enemies Jesus had unwittingly made. He reflected, Socrates suffered a similar fate for his wisdom, and his foes were equally merciless. With serenity, Jesus replied, seemingly accepting his fate, "The Creator's laws cannot be changed. When the moment comes, the blood of the just will be spilled, but your blood will not be spilled." Pilate was left astounded, perceiving a depth in Jesus' words that exceeded any philosopher's insight. Determined to protect him, Pilate offered to make his headquarters a sanctuary for Jesus, but he gently responded, "True sanctuary lies in heaven." In a heated exchange with Herod, the powerful local ruler, Pilate was asked about his view of Jesus. Pilate remarked that Jesus was a philosopher with ideals transcending politics, a man of peace who posed no danger to Rome. This reply displeased Herod, though he had no recourse. With Passover approaching and the city swelling with Jewish pilgrims, tensions escalated. Pilate reported that Jewish authorities had manipulated temple funds to rally the crowd against Jesus. Despite wanting to shield Jesus, Pilate faced an impossible situation. Caught between preserving order and an unruly crowd demanding his crucifixion. Their cries of "Crucify him" placed immense strain on Roman governance, cornering Pilate into a tough position. Pilate sought to hand over the case to Herod since Jesus hailed from Galilee. Yet Herod, unwilling to assume responsibility, returned Jesus to Pilate, compelling him to make a final decision. Pilate's palace was surrounded by a massive, unruly crowd, larger and more chaotic than ever. People from neighboring regions gathered, demanding Jesus' execution, escalating the tension and danger. During this time, a Galilean woman who claimed to be a prophet approached Pilate and begged him, "Do not harm this man, for he is sacred." She described a dream in which she saw him walking on water, speaking to the storm, and commanding the fish in the lake, all obeying him. She warned Pilate that ignoring her plea would bring him the Senate's curse and Caesar's anger. The prophetess's ominous words, combined with the immense pressure from powerful forces, deeply unsettled Pilate, who feared for his own position and the stability of the Roman Empire in the presence of such an uncontrollable figure. When the crowd brought Jesus back to the headquarters, the marble stairs shook with their fury and weight. Shielded by guards, I stepped into the court and firmly asked, "What do you demand?" They shouted in unison, "The death of Jesus!" I defended him, asking what crime he had committed, to which they responded that he had blasphemed and declared himself the Son of God. I reminded the crowd that Roman law did not convict based on unsubstantiated allegations, but their cry, "Crucify him," only grew louder, reverberating as though the palace walls themselves trembled. In this chaos, only Jesus remained calm. With all attempts to mediate failing, I suggested releasing a prisoner as a festival custom and chose Jesus, but the crowd resolutely demanded his execution. I cited Jewish law, emphasizing the rule to wait a full day before passing a death sentence and the necessity of Sanhedrin approval, but they refused to relent. I tried to explain that tradition requires charges to be publicly proclaimed to ensure justice, but my reasoning was ignored. Eventually, I had no choice but to order Jesus to be scourged, hoping it would pacify the crowd. Instead, their rage only deepened. I ceremonially washed my hands, declaring myself blameless, but nothing I said could stop the riot. It felt as though Jesus' destiny had already been written. That day, I witnessed chaos unlike anything before. A frenzied storm sweeping from the outpost gates to Mount Zion, with angry cries surpassing even the rebellions in Pannonia or the Roman Forum. As the sun darkened and the sky grew ominous, it reminded me of the Ides of March when Julius Caesar was killed. I stood silently in the basilica, watching Jesus being led to his crucifixion. I felt an overwhelming loneliness as I saw Jerusalem emptied. Crowds streamed out through the gates, leaving the city eerily abandoned, as though under a spell. At that moment, it seemed this was more than human drama. It was a divine tragedy. The heavy silence was broken by the sounds from Golgotha, a piercing cry of pain unlike any other. Dark clouds gathered over the temple and spread across the city, shrouding it in mourning. Some claim to have heard someone cry out, either the Creator himself suffers, or the cosmos is unraveling. As unusual events unfolded, a strong earthquake struck Egypt, terrifying Jews and Romans alike, while the superstitious saw it as the end of the world. That evening, I left the outpost and walked toward Golgotha's gates. I observed a sorrowful crowd dispersing after the tragic scene. My retinue moved silently. The Roman eagle draped in mourning. The soldiers murmured about miraculous signs, with some pausing to gaze toward Calvary as though awaiting divine intervention. I returned to the outpost, burdened by sorrow, climbing the bloodied steps where Jesus had been. As I turned, I noticed an older man weeping as he prayed, surrounded by soldiers moved to emotion. He knelt before me, his voice trembling as he asked permission to bury Jesus. "I am Joseph of Arimathea," he said. "I humbly ask to bury Jesus of Nazareth." I consented, assigning soldiers to accompany him and guard the body. Just a few days after Jesus was buried, I received news that the tomb was empty, and his disciples openly claimed that he had risen, exactly as he had predicted. This caused an uproar, even greater than the shock of his death. To seek the truth, I launched a detailed investigation, but no one could provide a satisfactory explanation. Although Joseph had placed Jesus' body in his personal tomb, the possibility of other interventions leading to the body's disappearance remains unconfirmed. Undoubtedly, this event will continue to puzzle people and remain a mystery I cannot unravel. Earlier, after Jesus' burial, a priest approached me, worried that his disciples might steal the body to fabricate the impression of his resurrection. To counter this, I instructed him to meet Captain Marcus and ordered Marcus to deploy additional Jewish guards at the tomb, making them accountable for its security. Yet, when I learned of the empty tomb, my anxiety deepened. Marcus explained that he had assigned Lieutenant Ben Isham with 100 soldiers to secure the tomb, but at dawn on the day of the event, the guards experienced frightening, inexplicable occurrences. These events went beyond logic, intensifying the enigma surrounding the resurrection claimed by his disciples. Isham, upon being summoned, described what he had witnessed. During the fourth watch, he observed a faint glow over the tomb. Initially, he thought it might be women bringing spices to anoint Jesus, but strangely, none passed by the guards. While pondering this, the entire area was suddenly engulfed in brilliant light. He witnessed an astonishing scene. Numerous figures resembling the dead, yet radiating youth and vitality. A heavenly melody resonated, giving him the impression that the heavens were glorifying God. The ground quaked beneath him, and he collapsed, unconscious. When Isham regained consciousness, he was lying face down. I asked whether the light could have been the rising sun, but he insisted it was too early for sunrise. I then questioned if exhaustion caused his dizziness, but he refuted this, explaining that he had stayed alert throughout the night, as sleeping during a shift was prohibited. To ensure vigilance, he had allowed some guards to rest while others maintained watch. When asked about the duration of the incident, he estimated the light lasted nearly an hour before the dawn fully broke. Later, priests interrogated Isham and offered him money to claim that Jesus' disciples had stolen the body. They wanted him to report that the guards had fallen asleep and that an earthquake explained the body's disappearance. Isham refused the offer, stating that he had witnessed no such event and saw no signs of the disciples. He noted that some priests appeared to believe that Jesus was far from ordinary. They believed that he might be a manifestation of the divine, appearing in different eras, such as during the time of Abraham and Lot. Isham's remarks prompted me to ponder. If the tales about Jesus were true, it was evident that he wielded a power beyond the natural world. Miracles like transforming water into wine, healing the ill, raising the dead, and finding a coin in a fish's mouth were all attested by the Jewish people. Remarkably, he committed no typical crimes and inflicted no harm on anyone. I remembered someone's declaration at the crucifixion, "Surely, this was the Son of God." Those words resonated in my mind as I contemplated a man who stood apart, even to his adversaries and admirers. Accounts of Jesus' appearance depict him as an average-height man with a composed disposition and a striking presence. His face reflected tranquility and kindness, even under immense pressure. His hair was long, slightly curly and light brown, with golden hues that made him noticeable. His eyes, the most striking feature, shifted from light brown to green, revealing a deep understanding of life's essence. His smooth, radiant skin and perfectly balanced face exuded dignity without being intimidating. He dressed modestly yet gracefully, typically in long robes and tunics, symbolizing humility and detachment from material wealth. His appearance radiated peace and approachability rather than extravagance. Such descriptions reinforced my belief that, if he were truly the Son of God, he embodied the highest ideals humanity could aspire to. "Your Excellency, Emperor, I have conveyed all events with utmost honesty, so you may objectively assess my judgment," I concluded the letter faithfully. "With the deepest respect, I remain your loyal servant." This is the entire profound and enigmatic narrative of the extraordinary events surrounding the life and death of Jesus Christ. If this story stirs something within you, please like this channel, subscribe, and enable notifications to stay updated with future content. Click on the suggested video to explore more fascinating mysteries. Don't hesitate to leave your thoughts in the comments. Do these accounts of Jesus lead you to reflect more deeply on him? We eagerly await your responses. Above all, give thanks to God for the miracles he has bestowed upon this world.